This video was brought to you by Noble Knight Games. More about them at the end of the video. Alright everybody, the wait is over. I am finally through with my entire campaign of Kinfire Chronicles Night's Fall. I played a 3-player game where I played Roland Wordforger, my fellow players played Core, and Asha of Billbrook. So that was our 3-player campaign dynamic. Now I will tell you, before I started this entire campaign starting over from that very first scenario or mission, I got to play about 5 or 6 different scenarios in the preview version where I played Naz of the Windstrikes and my fellow player was Valora Helmsman. Now, I did start off the game playing Fane Longstride the Bard in my second time through, so I feel like I have seen every single one of the 6 characters that this game offers, and each character is vastly different with their own strengths, their own abilities, hit points, and defense system, which is fantastic. So these unique characters are so playable and replayable in a variety of combinations. So what this means is I've had a lot of experience with this game. Again, there are 21 scenarios in the box, including the main quest and the side quest that players are offered, and we got to every single last stinking one. So what this is going to do is I'm going to offer my take on the game, having gone through the entire campaign, the entire series. But I also want to give you just a quick overview because here's what the game offers players: a really, really fun role-playing tabletop experience. And each session or scenario is an hour long. True, full stop, no funny business. And my group likes to take a whole bunch of time. We do a lot of hemming and hawing, and sometimes we get some AP. I'm telling you, like, this game, it really does take you an hour and a little bit of setup, a little bit of put back together, but the boxes and the components are so slim, and everyone gets their own pouch for their character that keeps their cards, their figures, their Kinfire chits, and so forth. So everything has its own nice little compartment, and it's super easy to pack back up. And I have to say, I got the upgrade kit, so that meant that I had another smaller box to put things in and to organize stuff, so it was really nice to have the upgrade kit. I loved it. But that also meant more space and more things to pull out. So this is an hour-long game, and players are going to do a variety of things, and the game teaches you what those things are as it goes. So I think that's probably its strength. You start the game, and you just read the book that comes along in the opening scenarios, the opening missions, and it teaches you in 4 different books what all the rules are getting started. Just read it out loud to the group. Everyone knows what's going on. You know what the basic rules are, and then you just start. You just essentially open up box 1 and start playing, because then the cards inside that box will run the session itself. There is no DM, and you just simply do what the game tells you to do. Very clear, very easy to get into. I love the entrance level of this game. Then you learn about combat. That's rule book 2. And then after that, you're going to learn about adventuring, which is rule book 3. And then you finally get to a town, and you're going to do the classic town exploration, which is rule book 4. That's it though. There are those 4 rule books, and they teach you everything you need to know about the game that the cards themselves in each mission doesn't tell you how to do. Again, very easy, very streamlined, just a really nice, organic, intuitive way of playing a game. There's not this massive, role player DM guide that someone has to read, top to bottom, front to back before playing the game. You can just jump right in. So I love that accessibility factor, and I really liked all the different features. So I love adventuring. I think adventuring was probably my favorite part of it. And adventuring is just simply a kind of choose your own adventure. The card itself will give you some kind of dilemma or choice, and characters will choose to do something. It might ask you to pay something, it might ask you to sacrifice something, it might ask you just to pick something. And then certain players might receive Kinfire tokens, they might receive gold, they might receive a bonus card or a benefit. But it's going to give, or memory, and it's going to give you things along the way that you may not necessarily know the implications for at the time, but it affects your characters, and different characters will choose to do different things. So I played again as Roland, and Roland is a book nerd. He's kind of like a historian. He loves to read everything and find out what's going on, and I kind of felt myself falling into that kind of style of play. When I went to the towns, I wanted to do all the book stuff, and so it was really cool, and it really got me into the feel of the world. And I have to tell you, this world is rich. This place where all these characters live and breathe and fight is just so realized. And so I love the world. The fantasy world is just perfect. It's spot on. It's there. Everyone that shows up, it makes sense. It's really nice. I would say that the writing is very strong compared to some other like tabletop role-playing games I've played lately or campaigns. I think the writing is definitely right there at the top. So you'll enjoy the stories, you'll enjoy the backstories, the dialogue, the interaction, and for me the adventuring was super fun because I loved the choice. I loved the, do I go this direction? Do I go that direction? Do we chase down this lead or do we chase down that lead? Knowing that the choice I make is probably going to eliminate other choices that I could have possibly have made, and it's going to change the outcome of that particular mission or scenario or future ones. So I like that a lot. Now, the other feature I enjoyed immensely was the battling. Now, when you go into battle and you fight, you have a bag, and this bag has everyone's chits in it, in addition to the baddies' chits. And every single monster that you fight is going to be unique and different, but it's going to be activated by one of these chits in a variety of ways. And so they never function the same way, but the system is the same, where you reach in the bag and you're going to draw out a disc. And I drew out the darkness disc. This is bad. There are 2 of these in here, and it also starts to rack up on the time track. If you draw darkness or you draw the wild, it's a heart, then you're going to get closer to refilling the bag with all of the used or spent chits. But you reach in here and you grab it, and then you activate whatever that is. Darkness, probably baddies, as opposed to the good team. And then you just pass the bag. We love to pass the bag. You don't have to pass the bag, but everyone loves reaching in and pulling something out. And then, of course, it's fun as a team because you're working together cooperatively to defeat all of these, obstacles and these situations, to make fun of someone when they draw poorly. And you just say, why did you pick that? Why didn't you just pick one of our character chits? So it's always fun to do that. So you just reach in again and you just draw one out. Oh, I got Core. Yeah, that's really good. So fantastic. And then you place these out and then Core gets to act. And when Core acts, you get to play a card and do that thing. But not just that. Players get to boost each other because, again, this is you working together as a team, and you have cards that in your hand say boost. You're not allowed to play those on your turn as an action because that is what you do as a supplementary action on your fellow player's turn. And that's one of the coolest systems in this game, is that you have all these cards in your hand and you are going to have a combination of action cards and a combination of your boost cards. And so you'll want to play those down, but there are some rules. They're color-coded. And so you want to play them down as long as they match the card that's led by the active player. In this case, it's Core. Core is going to play down a card. Let's say it's a red card. I can play a red boost card for Core, but I can't play a blue boost card unless I'm Roland, which is one reason why I love playing Roland. Roland gets to play any boost card, doesn't have to match the color, just gets to play it, and I always felt so supportive. I felt so just helpful to my teammates always because I had that lack of restriction, but that's the rule. So boost cards are so helpful. They help in defense when you get wounded. They help in attack to give more damage to the baddies. They help in drawing or discarding cards. And they also help, you can play a card when we draw from the bag and it's a darkness. We can play a thing that says, oh no, put it back in the bag and redraw. And it kind of gives us a stay and it puts that bad thing back in the bag, but hopefully we won't reach in and draw the exact same chit out, which of course it happens sometimes. But the boost is really great, and then the action cards are just awesome. The kinds of things you can do and the way you play your cards out is fascinating. And when you have no more action cards in your hand, you get to draw back up to 7 and then start back to your defense armor position, which might give you an armor card back because you used it whenever a baddie hit you and you had to deflect that damage by discarding your armor card. The way armor cards works is fantastic. I don't want to get into the weeds here. I don't want to get into the details, the nitty gritty, because it's great. The action cards are fantastic. Boosting when it's not your turn is fantastic. Drawing chits from the bag is fantastic. The way the monsters and the baddies all fight, different but same system. I love the chit draw from the bag, and you have the certain number of player chits in there based on the player count that you have at the table. That's it. I think the other thing is the lantern card. Every character has a unique lantern card that is super, super cool. And when you do that, discard down and you have no more action cards in your hand, you're going to activate that lantern card and draw back up to 7, getting that armor card or cards if you have multiples. And you're going to have that cool lantern card. So just fantastic battle sequence and battle fights. The battle and the adventuring, definitely where it's at. I just love those systems so, so much. Another thing that happens when you battle and explore is that you get to use this atlas, and it is on a spiral bound notebook, and you just open it up to the page it says, and it has the configuration of the space along with passable spaces or possible traps that are in locations where you begin as players and where the enemies begin. And so it is this kind of tactical movement on a particular map that has tons of beautiful features and colors and a super ton flavor whenever you look at those. And I think it's just so easy to open up. It's so easy to use, and it makes it different. So whenever you go to a location, you feel like you're there because it just has this nice, easy, oh look, we're on a ship, or oh look, we're in the middle of the woods, or it has that feel without you having to deal with a bunch of like hexes and tiles and putting things together and like lots of little bits and bobs. It is just the picture, and you will just put your standees out on those locations. It is so, so easy to use and really, really immersive. Now, how do players and characters grow with the game? This is another very cool feature. There's going to be awards or prizes that you win or things that you uncover on different scenarios or missions, and it's going to give you a chance to open up different treasure packs, and there are all these treasure packs, and they're sealed with a sticker, and they have a particular kind of gem or color that is on the outside of that sticker, and it's going to tell you to open up one of those things. And you open up that pack, and it's going to give you sets of cards that are action cards paired with the boost card, and they have a name, and they have to come in pairs because your deck is compiled of a particular balance of colors, which are different ways of fighting and different styles of engaging with the game. And you're going to have to keep that balance throughout the game with your cards, but you can start trading out your cards, and you can start upping your cards based on your Kinfire level. And you're getting these little Kinfire tokens because at the bottom of these cards, you're going to see little flames. And you're never allowed to have cards in your deck that sum more than the Kinfire you have in your player count area. So if I have 7 flame, little 7 tokens, that means that together I add up all the flame symbols on my cards, and I can't have more than 7, because the better the cards are, the more Kinfire cost they have. And so you really want to gain more Kinfire to raise your threshold to gain more and more cooler cards. And so the cards are really where it's at. So as you open up these packages, you don't know what's going to come. Another player grabs up something that's really good for them. Maybe it's a ranged ability. Somebody else grabs something because it's a good healing ability, and you see this one that just is a kind of wild. It could go one way or the other, and it's kind of risky, but you love gambling a little bit, so you're like, I'm going to take this card here. And you just take these and you add them to your deck, and then as you play, each time you play, your deck might be slightly different as you hone and adjust and balance out what all of your super cool attacks and moves and maneuvers and boost cards that you're providing for the game and your fellow players. So that's one fantastic feature that I think has to go. Very, very explicitly stated, the treasure packs and the cards and the way you upgrade your deck by choice, by design, is fantastic. The coolest feature, and they have thought out so many different combinations of cards and fantastic uses of these packs. So I think that's great. You can also buy things when you go to town, and you can buy certain cards that merchants and like wares and providers are giving you the option for. There are also things that you do when you take in your trophies from previous fights and wins. You'll take in the disc, and if that particular tradesmen will take that trophy and then give you something from it. Like if you take in a deer, they'll give you some kind of antler like action card. Then that's another way to get really cool, unique items based on your story and based on what you did. So you're essentially doing something, gaining the boon, turning that in, and getting some very cool thing in town. So that's another fantastic feature of the action cards and the way that characters are building their decks to just be the coolest and the best version of themselves. I will say that there was one thing I really, really wanted. I wanted some way for us to gain more hit points, because there were some times where when you're sitting at 10 hit points and you have one armor card, you're pretty vulnerable, and some figures we came up against with just one blow would do 10 points. And we had to, yes, I know they want us to strategize and figure out how to get around that, but there was another player who only had 11 hit points. Now, we did have Core at the table who had a lot of armor and a lot of ways to deflect those damage points and to absorb it themselves, but it was navigating that and figuring it out, and there were some that we just felt, boy, we lost almost pretty fast because it was just we got in a pickle and there was nothing we could do, and we used our fate tokens, and those are ways for you to discard and then draw back from the bag if you draw something you don't like. And so I felt like if there was some way for us to raise our hit points throughout the game, which it stayed the same the entire time, I was always 10 points from start to finish, and my armor was always the same from start to finish. And so I felt like my cards got better, but I felt like maybe my base stats needed to also get a little bit better too. So that was one small, quibble, a minor frustration that all of us at the table felt, is it really would have been nice for us to kind of upgrade with that. And I felt like my health meter definitely could go higher than 10. I saw there were more than 10 numbers in there. So I wanted there to be just a little bit more growth with that hit point and maybe the armor, so that we could really stand a chance in some particular fights. And the next thing I want to say is a mistake that we made, and I just want to emphasize, if you are starting this campaign, definitely make sure that you are using the void box. For some reason, we missed that message about the void box and placing our used tokens into the void box, because that's going to definitely play into the final scenario. You are going to need that for the showdown, and that's very, very, very important. So just make sure that whenever you spend your fate tokens during each battle, that you put them in the void box and you just keep everything in there. We didn't do it, and we did the best we could with estimating the amount that we used, but it wasn't necessarily exact. So make sure that you're doing that right, and know that you can only take in 3 fate tokens to each fight, but you can always have as many of those tokens in your supply as you want. You can just simply use 3 during each particular battle, and if you don't use them, they just go back into your supply, so you don't spend them, which is really, really great. So those were two of my concerns that I had after we finished playing it. I will say that with 21 scenarios, with 21 missions that you go on, it did start towards the end to feel just a little bit too long. I'm thinking if maybe, 15 to 18 in the box, I think it would have ended where we all felt very satisfied. We all felt like we had a nice conclusion. We all felt like we went through enough together to have plenty of stories and to get to know our characters. But by the time we got to that 21, I think we were ready. I think we were ready for it to kind of finish. And we were only doing 1 a week at game night, and some weeks we had to take off or we had to do other things. And so with 21, that essentially took us, I think, half a year to get through. It took us a very long time to get through just by playing 1 a night. So it did take us a while, but it was really, really satisfying to get through to the end. And it was super fun. That final battle was just insanely cool, fun, exciting. Couldn't have ended better. So I have to say that it is loads of fun all the way to the final second of the game. Just fantastic ending. I mean, fireworks in the air kind of ending with just lots and lots of fun. So we did end on a high note. tons of fun. I think the characters are dynamite. I love the characters. So much so that I have been playing Kinfire Delve, which takes all 6 of these characters and places 2 together in 3 different games. So I've talked about Vainglory's Grotto and I've talked about Scorn's Stockade. There is a 3rd one coming out, and I've also talked about Kinfire Council on my channel, which is a competitive version that's in the same world with these characters and with these counselors and this kind of like rich fantasy story world. So there's a lot going on with Kinfire, and just, big fan over here with a couple of those quibbles. So that's going to be my final take on Kinfire Chronicles Nights Fall. It is a delightful adventure, and if you want that big campaign feel with a tabletop role-playing game, takes an hour to play with those cool mechanics that I talked about, you can't find anything better. This truly does do that to a T, and I think you would absolutely adore it. And I think it's great with 2, 3, or 4 players. So it really does scale incredibly well, and just tons and tons of fun and flavor and beautiful artwork. I cannot get enough of the artwork in this game. Just fantastic. So that's going to be my final thoughts, my final take after playing all 21 scenarios in Kinfire Chronicles Nights Fall. Wow. I mean, what a box. Okay, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.